is, hi, thanks for starting the recording. I appreciate that. Did you start the recording? Yes, that's the first part of this. So I am really grateful to San Jose State University for promoting this particular program. I've seen incredible things today, incredible discussions. And I also want to acknowledge that I'm presenting from an area of Los Angeles that is built on the land of the Gabrielino Tongva people. It's so important that we come together to think about the Indigenous people, particularly considering the topic that I'm presenting today. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't know if you can unmute or whether you can put your information in the chat. Can they unmute? Is that possible?
If they want to raise their hand, I'll unmute them.
Oh, great. So my first question is, we've been talking about belonging today, but what is belonging to you personally? And really, if you just want to flow in the chat, that's great. And we'll just read what's happening in the chat. So what is belonging to you personally? So Erin, is there anything coming up or?
Not seeing any hands as of yet.
Yeah.
And I think here we go. We have some comments in the chat. With a lot coming. Feeling welcome, being included, being seen, witnessed, and embraced without needing to change who you are, feeling welcome and valued, having a supportive community around me and to be a part of, feeling like a part of the community, where I feel welcome and part of the conversation, being seen for what I contribute, feeling welcome in the space I am in, and my speech being valued.
Oh, I really like those. I have kind of a pat answer because I've looked at belonging, I've looked at it in a lot of different ways, but well, I'm having problems moving my screen. That is so weird. There we go. Belonging means that everyone is treated and feels like a full member of the larger community and can thrive. This is coming from the Harvard Office of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging. And since we are looking at equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging in this presentation, I thought that seemed appropriate. But it is everything that you mentioned as well. It's much more than just feeling like a full member of a larger community and being able to thrive. It's all the different comments that you made. So this is actually from a book, Inclusify, which is about belonging. On some level, we all want to be accepted by others, so much so that social exclusion causes the same areas of your brain to light up that physical pain does. So you really, you feel pain when you feel excluded. And this is so important when we think about students and how exclusion is so traumatic. So today we'll be looking at exclusion through these diverse topics. And is there anything in these topics that you think might be missing? Please put it in the chat. I mean, these are generally some of the areas that we look at when we think of diversity. Are there any other areas that might be excluded here? Notice I use the word excluded as on purpose. Anything coming up, Erin?
Neurodiversity.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. And I'm really glad you brought that up because that is one of the topics I'm speaking about, but I put it under mental health. Super important. Neurodiversity should be on this list as well. Anything else?
Wealth and poverty.
Yes. And, you know, I have socioeconomics, but it should probably, I think those should be divided between social circumstances and economics. You're absolutely right. And actually, when I'm looking at gender, I'm thinking about a statement like, only boys can do that, or only girls can do that, as well as gender as a choice as well. So the difference,
Sorry.
yes.
There's one last one, body size.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, oh, I'm going to use that for the next time I work on this. That is super important. And there are books out there and graphic novels that do look at body size. Wish I could add it right now. So these are some of the books we'll be looking at today, and probably not have time to look at all of these, but you probably see ones you're familiar with and ones you aren't familiar with, but they all deal with the issues that were mentioned previously, and even the issues that you brought up as well. Speak Up is actually about a girl who is autistic, who is being teased and bullied at school. And so there's that neurodiversity right there. Just by a raise of hand, how many of you are familiar with some of the books on this list? Wow. Thank you for using the raise hand. I can actually see that. So if you have any comments while I'm presenting some of these books, please put them in the chat. Because you know these titles as well. But I'm looking at these with the lens of belonging. And so I just want to go through a few of them. Not all of these books are actually in the presentation because I only have the 20 minutes. So let's get started. So some of the books in here are lightly touch on different topics. Four Eyes is a young boy who's being bullied because of his glasses, but he's also dealing with a feeling of being isolated. His one friend has left him behind. And so that isolation is so important when you deal with who you are as far as actually belonging. I don't know if any of you know Dreamer, but this is a situation where this fellow has actually created a diversity alliance, hockey diversity alliance to fight racism. And this is a memoir. I feel like the graphic memoirs are really effective and an excellent way to look at belonging. And so my take on belonging in this is belonging can be felt through support from community of ethically diverse hockey players who are fighting for equal rights. So belonging to a community. Four Eyes, I already mentioned, and sometimes a sense of belonging comes from how you view yourself. And if you have family and friends that can help you see that you are valued, that will increase your sense of belonging. So value is an important part of belonging. I'm not going to read the slides, so if you want to take screenshots, go for it. Maybe an artist. This particular piece was really strong and indelible. I felt really close to this particular person as I was reading her memoir, because she struggled with learning and actually the way she was being treated in elementary school through middle school, and sort of found her place in high school, but was still dealing with racism. And then finally, she mentions her employment as an artist for the New Yorker magazine. And, I said grades 9 through 12. She deals with some adult issues, but I certainly think ninth graders and above can use this book to help them feel as if they belong. And also the fact that these books are mirrors and windows that students can use to feel that there's something out there that's written about them and their experiences, which also can give them a sense of belonging. Invisible. This book I came across because I thought there has to be a book somewhere that deals with the fact that some people are grouped in ways they don't feel like they should be grouped. So here are 5 students. They're from Mexico, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Venezuela, and the US. And this particular adult is just talking to them as if they all know each other, all think the same way, all have the same experiences. And this particular book is so incredibly valuable for the way it shows that people with diverse interests can come together to help someone. But it also shows how we need to be careful when we lump people under a certain general word or topic. It's scary, actually. Fire starters. This one came to my attention because I had a group of kids who were asking about books about Indigenous people. It's really hard to find books published in the US about Indigenous people. This is actually a Canadian publication. But these 2 brothers were accused of doing something they hadn't done, which happens a lot within certain groups. I mean, what are I can't even think of the numbers now about how there are so many more people of color in jails than there are of white people, which is inequity in its worst. But in this book, they belong to a community that supports them, their Indigenous group, and believes them when they tell them they didn't start the fire. And so they were able to make it through this really difficult time where even the police were harassing them and accusing them of this. And they were sure that, actually, the police were sure they were guilty until they found out that a white boy had actually started the fire. A really powerful book. And I even think this could be given to 7th graders. It's important. Now, this is one book that is one of the lighter touches, but here's a girl who has moved to a new place. It's hard to find friends. So there's that sense of belonging, the friendship that she's looking for. And the only elective she can join is a swim team. She actually is afraid of the water, so she has to deal with that. But there's another team that they are in a contest with, and that team is merciless. And so she really worked on trying to find the racial justice that she needed. But it's lighthearted, not quite like fire starters. Magic Fish. LGBTQ topics it's hard to find books even now. The publication of books is better, but with all the censorship going on and publishers are trying to make money, this is still a hard topic to really find good graphic novels with. This one, though, is so beautifully written. This particular person is telling his story about coming to being able to share what his sexual identity is with his mother, But also within the story is his mother coming to terms with her separation from her country, her people feeling a lack of identity. And so we have two strong topics in here, but it's told through folk tales, which makes it really beautiful and very touching. One of the books that I really enjoyed, plus the illustrations are incredible. So a community that accepts you for who you are creates a strong sense of belonging. So this one I mentioned earlier, I really feel like this could even be shared with kids up through 9th grade, only because this is another hard topic to find a lot of books out there, or even graphic novels. Autism or other mental disparity. So here's Mia, and the kids at school bully her because she's different. She doesn't do things the way they think she should, but in her spare time, she records videos with Charlie, who is actually non-binary. And I love how the author includes the fact that Charlie's non-binary in the story. But it's mostly about Mia and her feelings about the way she's being treated, and music as an outlet. And I know sometimes belonging to a group or a community that is something you love or really enjoy is a way of finding that strength, which is what happens in this particular story. I don't know how many of you know this one. It was one that I just came across because my daughter was actually living in Indonesia at the time, and I was excited to see it was published in English. So here's a girl who has physical disabilities, and the author has added an elephant who is an imaginary creature to give us information about Indonesian culture and actually religion, which was an interesting ploy, and I thought really charming. The type of thing she's dealing with surprised me. She was a basketball player. She ends up with an injury that has forced her to be, well, she actually is paralyzed from the waist down. And the basketball team says they won't allow her to play on the team because she is in a wheelchair. So she has that she's dealing with. But she's strong. And so the basketball coach tells the polo team, the water polo team coach, that they should look at her. But the people on the team assume, because she is paralyzed, that she won't do well. So it's a very interesting journey to watch, how she's accepted in one group as a basketball player, has this injury, then she has to find a new place where she can be accepted. And it's a very sweet story, actually. Frizzy. Okay. Frizzy is one of my favorite books on this list because it's about a mother and a daughter. The mother has decided that her daughter has to straighten her hair, partly because the mother was harassed when she was young for having curly hair, and people were talking about her ethnicity and belittling her because of her ethnicity. But we don't know that until you're, about 3/4 of the way into the book. And so she's fighting, feeling a lack of belonging and love from her own mother. She's fighting the way the kids treat her because she wants to let her hair go and just be the way it should be. But she has an advocate in an aunt. And sometimes that's what you need, just to feel that sense of belonging, that there's one person on your side. Borders is fiction. Many of the books that I've shown you so far are actually memoirs or actually based on a real occurrence, but fiction. This particular one is fiction, but what the author has to say is really interesting, because a mother and a son are actually caught between Canada and the US, and they can't cross over to either border because the mother won't identify herself as belonging to a particular country. She says that her identity is tied to the First Nations or American people that the tribe or group that she belongs to. And what an interesting concept, even though it is fiction. I just included this one because it's a very powerful book. So what I'd like to do now is just spend some time chatting with you. Do you know any other books that should be on my list? And also, yes, go ahead.
I was going to say there's a couple listed in the chat. I don't know if you want them now or in a moment.
Yes, absolutely. What books that I did mention that are listed in the chat?
A Girl Called Echo.
Oh. Anything else?
7 Generations.
Wow, these are incredible. Thank you so much. Any others?
How to Be an Ace, a memoir of growing up asexual.
Such an important topic. You know, the more books. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the more books that cover the diversity that's out there, and even the topics that you mentioned that are diversity that weren't on my list, these are all so important. Anything else?
Naira and the Jinn.
Okay, so a couple of these I didn't put on the list because I was trying to look mostly at 2023, but now I wish I had. These are all really good books. Would someone just briefly talk about Naira and the Jinn? Whoever put that up, can you just unmute for a minute and tell us why you really think that's a part of belonging? Oh, Telegemeyer. You know, that's so interesting that she came up, and because I can see the chat now. She certainly brings up some really interesting points. Her group isn't as diverse as some others, but yeah, I like Smile. So there were a couple of books that were in the chat that really fascinate me. Let me just go back. Veronica, if you're still there, would you just tell us a little bit about How to Be an Ace, if you can? I don't know if you can unmute or not.
Yeah, sure. I was looking into this book because my daughter has an interest in finding books about this, and it was very difficult to find graphic novels that was actually around this topic. It's quite dark in places, sort of it's a heavy topic. So we had a lot of discussions about this book, so I would maybe be careful who I recommend it to, or be open to discussing the book. But I was very happy to find it, and to find a book that actually discusses the subject, because it's very hard to find.
Yeah. So someone asked, will the slides be shared? I think we're recording, right?
Yes.
Erin?
Yes.
You know what?
Sorry, can I just add something?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Veronica. I thought you were.
I just want to begin with asking, did you hear is my microphone okay? So you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. And I also very much want to thank you for this lecture. I would say about 20 years ago, when I started as a librarian, it was not allowed to even talk about graphic novels. It should only be the fine literature that we were recommending the students and our patrons. So I just really love this topic and love the possibility of listening to you. So thank you for this.
Oh, you are so welcome. And I have to say that when I started talking about how graphic novels are so important to students, and that's why they should be shared, some of the teachers said, but they're not literature, or, things like that. I hope that still doesn't exist. Oh yeah, Tom, you're so right. Oh, don't get me started on comics aren't real books. Thank you, Tom. Whitebird. Oh, absolutely. There are just so many books. So as far as sharing the presentation, Erin, what should I do? Is there someplace I can send the presentation, or?
I think so with the organizers, and when they send out the recording, maybe they can attach
How's
the
that?
PowerPoint.
That work for everyone? Give me a thumbs up if that works for you.
Oh, I see all these thumbs going up. Nice.
Oh, great. Okay, I loved being with you today. I don't want to take away time from the next people, but my email is at the end of this. Let me go back to that. I just want to put this on, and please write to me with more books, because I plan on writing on this topic. It's so important to me. The article that I wrote last was for book lists. You can actually find my article on book lists about belonging. So I'm just going to share my screen one last time. You've been amazing. I love what I'm reading in the chat. You are an awesome audience. Thank you so much. So let me just go back and hold on. I'm trying to find, here we go. So I'm just going to share my information. Please contact me. I'd love to hear from all of you. And thank you so much for being here with me today. You are incredible. Such amazing information in that chat. And hopefully the chat will also be available as well. What do you think? Will it be?
I'm not 100% sure. I'll try to save it on my end.
Oh, thank you, Erin.
Mhm.
Bye, everyone. Enjoy the end of this amazing conference. I've learned so much. Thank you all. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, someone said the chat usually saves to recording.
Oh, excellent.
Okay. Erin, you've been phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. You've been very, very great. I appreciate it. It's wonderful.
Yeah, well, this is such an important topic. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
So how many people were in the room?
I had recorded 66.
Oh, that's great. I'm going to have to tell that to my boss.
Yeah.
See you in the next rooms.
It was thoroughly enjoyed by all. Yes.
Oh, are we still recording? Oh, we've got to,
Thanks.
yeah.